that's when I was still in the school. I went to Thurman and said, I asked him if I could get the chief down there asked for me. I wanted to, Herb and I wanted to be together, you know.
Yeah.
And Thurman said, no, you get some sea duty first, and then come back and see me. Well, sure enough, after the rehearsal, after the Northampton fiasco, I did. I was on leave in Minnesota after getting sung. I made a special trip at my own expense to Washington to talk to Thurman. I wanted to get sent down to Jacksonville with Herb, and he turned me down, and he gave me a bunch of crap, and I really blew up. I got mad, and he finally said, "Don't get hot under the collar. Don't get hot." I said, "I will get under the collar. What you told me, you know. I was really mad and hell at him. So to this day, I never did like him. Even when I was in the school as a kid, I hated his rehearsals. Most of the stuff we played, I could play it right the first time. Week after week after week after week, playing the same stuff for one concert. And I was just bored, still silly. Like I said, I played it right the first time I ever saw it. You know, I don't need to, you know, so I was bored with his, you know, a lot of people swore by him, but I couldn't see him at all. You know?
I remember his John L. Lewis eyebrows, as I call them, in front of the band up there in the auditorium. He was only there for a short while after I came into the school. Yeah,
he was only a chief then when I was there too.
Uh-huh.
Then later on he made a warrant.
Then he became lieutenant.
Yeah.
He was. He did a lot of things for the program, I think.
I'm sure he did.
And unfortunately, this particular archive that we're working on right now, we would have had him had they started this 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because he was still alive and he had a lot to contribute.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
So.
Well, I think Benter had originally sent him over there to do that. He was playing horn in the Navy band.
Yeah. Well, as I understand the story, I don't know exactly what transpired for him to begin the school, but even Dutch tells me, and Tony will probably be able to fill in a little bit of this too, but as first class, he was the person that was running the school over the yard, and eventually they transferred. It must have gone from the yard to the receiving station across the river shortly after you guys left, because I understand that started in '41. And so that'll get cleared up somewhere along the way.
When the Japs hit Pearl Harbor, they immediately started. They installed machine guns on some of the roofs of some of the buildings right in the Navy Yard. Boy, right away. And where the music school is now, they put up a bunch of tents over there. There was no music school over there then. Across the river in Anacostia, there were a bunch of tents over there. And I think it was while I was overseas when they finally put up those buildings over there where the school is.
Now I understand you said that the school was where the old club is on the Navy Yard now, or where the old club
but that's where the school was, up on the third deck. Just that one deck.
Yeah.
And then there was an annex way up the other end of the Navy Yard there, a beat up old thing where they had to put a cake of ice in the water cooler. So
but now this is in 39, 40, 41.
41.
Because it had started at a building just inside of the gate, as Dutch tells me.
Well, maybe that's the one they call the annex. Then that's probably it.
That's possibly correct. This will all get worked out.
Yeah. They had the Navy annex, and a lot of times when you still had to punch in your cards for practicing and all. Sometimes you had to go up there to practice.
Those practice cards were still in vogue when I came in.
Yeah.
I remember that very, very well. If you had a high-scoring card, you did pretty well.
Yeah.
If you had a bad card, you never went out of the gate. Why don't we take a little rest here?
Okay.
Okay, Lenny, we're taking a little short break here, so now we've covered quite a bit of material, but let's go back and rehash some of those years in the Navy band, and maybe just hit on some various relationships, personalities. I know you mentioned a story about the 9 old men, if you can tap on that a little bit. And I know you were big friends with Harold Brash and any of those kinds of things there, and we'll go along here for a little bit more and let you go free.
Okay. Well, the 9 old men story, came about. There came a time when some of the younger men couldn't make chief because there was a quota, and I guess Commander Brendler decided the only way to make room for him was to get rid of some of the older, non-producing chiefs, which he did. He had 9 of them were transferred, and that left 9 vacancies, men that could make chief.
Yeah, his philosophy was a good one. The people that should be advanced were the people that were producing.
Exactly. And there should not be a quota system there in that case, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's how the vacancies were created. Naturally, the men who were transferred didn't take very kindly to it, but it's understandable. But that's what happened.
That band went through a large change when we started to lose all the clarinet players, which the clarinet section of the band was just absolutely spectacular. There was no band around that could touch that band as far as clarinets. And when they all were gone, they all were retired or whatever, the sound of the band just changed. And it's only been just a few years ago now, when I say a few, I'm talking 12 to 15 now, that we've worked back into that sound, because what Gambone's got over there now, the average length of the people in that clarinet section are around about 15, 16 years, and it seems like we've recreated a lot of that sound, and he's got a wonderful group of people.
You know, since Brendler, of course, was a clarinet player himself, he emphasized that very much. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right. That's very interesting.
I was trying to think, when I came into the band, the solo clarinetist was the clarinetist from the Philadelphia Orchestra, Philadelphia Symphony. Oh, good heavens, I can't even think of his name now, but he was very well known among classical clarinetists. And of course, when he left, he was in just during the war. When he left, that's when Tony Mitchell became the solo clarinetist in the band.
Because a lot of those people, that band drew very heavily from the Curtis
Yes.
Institute up there in Philadelphia.
Exactly, very heavily. I can think of Bill Cameron, the harpist, Sal Peroni, the timpanist. I believe Buster Watkins, the horn player, came from there too. There were a lot of them. Yeah, there were a lot of them. And also there were several men in the band who never would have been in the Navy at all, except for big upheavals. And the first one, of course, is World War I. Rather than be drafted, they joined the Navy band. The same with World War II. So I never would have joined the Navy if it hadn't been for World War II. And then later on, the Korean War and so on. There were a lot of men came in just from those upheavals.
Yeah. A name gosh, I can see it. He lives down in Springfield now. A tuba player was over there while you were there, because he was a peer of mine. I can't.
Tuba player from the Navy band?
Yeah.
Eric Schrader?
Eric Schrader.
Eric Schrader?
Talk to me a little bit about Eric, because Eric is going to be on here at some point in time.
Yeah,
so
well,
down.
We were always good friends. He came, I think, from Pontiac, Michigan.
Talk to me about you were friends with Harold Brash, right? You guys were.
Well, Harold Brash, like I said, he was very much of a teetotaler. He never smoked or drank, but he had what I consider a very negative personality. He just could not stand to see things going nice and smoothly. And I've seen it happen more than once where at a rehearsal with Brendler, things were going pretty well and Brendler was pretty happy, and I could see he was going to say, "Okay, boys, we're going to leave early today, go ahead." Then Brash would do something to rile him up. Next thing you know, Brendler would say, "Take an intermission and come back," and something, like that. But and I told you, when I roomed with him, here I am in the same uniform. I haven't said a word yet, and everybody hates me. Hotel keepers and waitresses in the restaurants and everything. That's just the way he was. He just could not stand to see things going smoothly. He was a wonderful player. I've never heard a better one.
Me either.
Yeah.
A lot of this sound will be with me forever.
Yeah.
There's just no smoother euphonium sound. And there have been a lot of fine euphonium players.
in the days of Benter, not Brendler, but in the days of Benter, I think Brash came pretty close to being sent to sea. He got on the wrong side of Benter, I think. Then, of course, when the Japs hit Pearl Harbor and Benter got caught with things that he shouldn't have in the trunk of his car, that ended that. But Brash was a wonderful player, no doubt about that.
Yeah, yeah. Any other folks around there in the band you can...
Well, of course, I was always very friendly with Oscar Short. I admired him so much. And once in a great while, if I didn't like intonation or something, I'd talk to Oscar. And he would say, "You do exactly what you're always doing. There's fine, you know." And what amazed me sometimes, maybe on a concert, I thought this intonation in certain sections was pretty bad. And yet, when we made recordings, it seemed to even out. That's a strange phenomenon, but it seems to happen that way. A lot of times, of course, in hot weather, the brass instruments mostly will get a little sharper than the clarinets and so on, and there's little things like that. So there are problems, but they seem to iron out. Now, for one thing, in the Navy band, we never hardly ever took a tuning note, like from the clarinet or from an oboe or anything. We just played, and without being told, if tuning slides needed changing, we would do it without make a big fuss about it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that's professional.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
It bothers me with not good bands. You have to take a note, and then it gets into a teaching process, which the band level is not a teaching process. It's a matter of playing and interpretation.
I do remember in the symphony orchestra now, with all the strings, they used to have a tuning note, and they used to have John Reachmack standing by the stroboscopes checking, you know, to see whether they were right. But we never did that in the band.
Yeah, yeah. John Reachmack. Well, that's another name that comes.
Yeah, we used to call him Reachmack the Watchmack. He had taken a watchmaking course in the years beforehand. And you know, originally his name started with an H. H-R-E-A-C-H-M-A-C-K. Reachmack. And then he just took, I guess legally, he took the H off it.
That's very interesting.